I think we all worry that we don't lead or we don't talk like the leaders before us. And for women, a lot of the time, that does include like not being able to bring in that spirituality or that conversation into the way they work or they function in their family life. And I think this is such an important conversation.
Women as leaders are opening up a more spiritually aware world. And it's a world where better decisions are made, more kind, more loving, and better for each other and the environment. The future has information that we have yet to perceive, but our instinct and our relationship with God, the force of life, will guide us in the right direction. That gut instinct has information that's yet to be revealed, forthcoming. That synchronicity is pointing us where we are being guided, but yet to know what it looks like.
Dr. Lisa Miller, I am so excited to have you on the Save Yourself podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Dr. Amy, I love what you're doing. I absolutely love what you're doing.
We had the pleasure of meeting in person. I want to say now, I can't believe it's been a couple of months. And I was just blown away and really touched by some of the things that you talked about. And I really want everyone in our community to hear about you and your work and the book and spirituality and how it can help teenagers and all of those things and themselves. And all of those things are things that I would love to dive into today. But before we do that, I wanted to give a formal introduction for those of you who might not know who you are or your work. Dr. Lisa Miller, PhD, is a New York Times bestselling author of The Spiritual Child and a professor in the clinical psychology program at Teachers College, Columbia University. She's the founder and the director of the Spirituality Mind Body Institute, the first Ivy League graduate program and research institute in spirituality and psychology, and has held over a decade of joint appointments in the Department of Psychiatry at Columbia University Medical School. Her innovative research has been published in more than 100 peer-reviewed articles in leading journals, including Cerebral Cortex, the American Journal of Psychiatry, the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. She's also the editor of the Oxford University Press Handbook of Psychology and Spirituality, the founding co-editor-in-chief of the APA Journal Spirituality in Clinical Practice, and elected fellow of the American Psychological Association. And she's a two-time president of the APA Society for Psychology and Spirituality. She's a graduate of Yale University and University of Pennsylvania, where she earned her doctorate under the founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman. And she served as a principal investigator on multiple grant-funded research studies. Dr. Miller speaks and consults around the world. She has the Awakened Brain and the Spiritual Child. She talks about it to the U.S. military, businesses, personal development, faith-based organizations, schools, universities, and for mental health and wellness initiatives. Welcome, Lisa.
Oh, Dr. Amy, it's so much fun to be here. I love what you're doing. I think your audience is our audience. And, we share a long time in clinical science and science used to help people. And we both had some time at Columbia. So it's particularly fun to join you here,
I
Dr. Amy.
love Columbia. I was mostly in the hospital and medical center, and as you know, people probably don't know that the university, the undergraduate university, I think you're more there, or in the PhD areas are a little bit more downtown. I guess I would say, and where I was in the hospital area is a little more uptown. Or are you in both areas?
I run between both. So I share with you the medical school, but also some teaching and practice on the downtown campus. But Dr. Ray, I like the way you're bringing science into action, and I'm excited to share with you, for men and women, but particularly for women, the importance of the science on spirituality in our lives. That all people, but particularly women, most women, the overwhelming majority of women in their daily life put their spiritual foot forward first. And yet there's far too little discussion amongst women that openly, particularly in schools and boardrooms and public places, honor this about us. So we can really get into that in a way that I think honors and supports who we really are.
So Just starting off of what you said, why is it so important that we acknowledge this and develop and cultivate it?
Women and men, we know through science, all people are born spiritual. We know this through MRI studies. There's circuits in our brain that make us spiritual beings, whether or not we happen to be religious, whether or not we happen to be Hindu or Catholic or Christian or Muslim or Jewish. It doesn't matter, spiritual but not religious. We're all spiritual beings, every single one of us. And we know that this is in our genes.
Mm.
So the question is not, am I spiritual? You are spiritual. You are beautifully, magnificently spiritual. For you to consider, the invitation is, how do you want to cultivate your spirituality? What is really your spiritual path? For women, this is absolutely foundational. Relationships, who comes into our lives and when. Why, of all days, do I get to speak with you, Dr. Amy, today? And who is in our audience with whom we share this path very deeply? Why is it that our children are exactly who they are, not made to order, not, send it out and you receive it, mail order, Google the secret? No, like really, what souls come. These are the alignments, the sacred, sanctified relationships in our lives. And as women, we know it. We absolutely know that relationships are spiritual. The other thing we know that we count on is that there's guidance in life, that we don't need to calculate and control everything. But women know there is real, true, valid spiritual guidance written into life.
If someone's listening to this for the first time or hearing about your work for the first time and they're like, "Oh yeah, she's right. Like I am spiritual, but what am I how? What's the first step? Like how do I really tap into this? How do I maybe, use this to my advantage?"
So very, very clearly and succinctly, there are three, like a three-legged stool, a perfect solid triangle, three pillars of spiritual life. The first is that you are born to perceive the deeper nature of life. You've got this. Two, the deeper nature of life is real. My word is God. You can say universe or force, source, people, beautiful words all over the world. You're built to see the deeper nature of life. The deeper nature of life is real. And so, three, every day of our lives, we have the opportunity to be in a dialogue with the guiding force in life. What life are you showing me now? Higher power, where do you direct me now? This lived dialogue, navigating our lives, is how most women live. And it is absolutely hard data, bedrock, surefire, the best information we have.
So, for example, something that I've learned over the last few years since I've been doing more of this work and less and outside the clinic, like being in the clinic as a physician felt very comfortable to me. And I felt like I could predict what was going to happen in a day or in a week or in a month. Whereas when I started to share about nutrition and gut health and women's health outside of medicine, I started to feel a lot of uncertainty. There's different paths I could take. There was opportunities that I didn't know if it was right for me or wrong for me. There's people who came into my life that I didn't know if it was the right ones or the wrong ones. And I started to realize, like, wow, I need to bounce this off of someone and like bounce it off of like the universe or God and I think that's like one strategy, correct? To be like talking to the God or universe and saying, like, what should I be doing right now? What is the right path for me to take? Is this person right for me? What is show me, the thing that I'm supposed to be doing?
And then the answer comes. Would you feel an answer?
Yes.
For you and your path, how did the answer come?
So, because a lot of women, especially, we get a lot of voices from our partners or our parents or our colleagues or people who we think are quote unquote smarter than us. And so I think it's a way to kind of tune into what you really want and what you really know for yourself.
So for some people, it's in their prayer life. Some people, it's in their meditation life. Some people, it's in nature. Some people will see synchronicities or have dreams. And some of us have a mix of those, a synchronicity. Why, of all days today, way too unprobabilistic to have happened by chance? Am I getting an answer to this question in the form of this comment someone just made at the coffee shop, in the form of an animal in my path? Women see the guidance that our higher power, the force, puts in front of us in the form of synchronicities. Women hear things in our deep intuition, direct knowing, just know it because I know it in my gut. That's real. That is so much more reliable than any secondhand data or information. Women know this, that there is in all of us what science has now shown a receptive faculty of perception, like a catch in the catcher's mitt. Wow, I hadn't thought of that. But suddenly this wonderful opportunity came along. Hey, wait a minute. I didn't even know this direction existed. I didn't know there were this type of job or people but wait a minute. Maybe life is showing me something now. This lived dialogue with life is natural for women. What I would say is let's honor it. Let's say, no, this is my front foot, not apologize, not whisper it by the water cooler or in the ladies' room. Say it full out. Say it to your children. They've got to know it. Why would you want to give your children anything but the best knowledge humanly possible? Say it to your friends because you love them and want the best for them. You don't want to give them second rate knowledge. And even at work, as women help others grow and develop at work, as women lead teams, welcome all forms of knowing, gut instinct, intuition, a synchronicity, a dream into the meeting alongside data and numbers and logic. Women as leaders are opening up a more spiritually aware world. And it's a world where better decisions are made, more kind, more loving, and better for each other and the environment.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I think that speaks to me so much because I think we all worry that we don't lead or we don't talk like the leaders before us. And for women, a lot of the time, that does include like hard, not being able to bring in that spirituality or that conversation into the way they work or they function in their family life. And I think this is such an important conversation.
A good icebreaker is if you're in a board meeting, if you're in a meeting that traditionally has not welcomed in multiple ways of knowing, invite everyone into their own inner wisdom. For instance, who here in this room has made one of the most important decisions in your life out of a gut instinct, intuition, a synchronicity, some form of mystical experience, or something in your prayer life, a receptive form of spiritual awareness? About 80% of people, men and women, will raise their hand.
Yes.
Then say, okay, hands in the air. Who here was ever misled by that deep, deep, direct knowing? No one's misled. All hands go down. And then we're off to the races. People realize that in their own lives, the most important decisions are made using our spiritual awareness, using our deepest form of inner wisdom. They are not made only on outward empirical. And I'm a scientist, Dr. I mean, you're a scientist. That alone is not enough. So it's a great method. I love science, but it is not enough to make the most important decisions in life, particularly when they lead us into the future where the direction has yet to be discovered. Right? If I say, "Oh, this is a real limitation in the movement right now," real limitation. I want something. I want him or her or them to say yes. I want this school for my kid or this job for me. Okay, that I want, my I want is based on today's information backwards. That's all outdated, the second information. The last thing I would hope for our friends and our community is to send something out and get what you want. I do not
Yeah.
wish you that you get what you want. I wish very deeply that you discover what the universe has in store for you. That is splendid.
I love that. And that speaks to me because my son is a senior in high school right now. And, we're having all these discussions about college. And, I've done all my schooling on the East Coast. And I thought to myself, okay, number one, I don't control the situation. Number two, I don't know what the right path is for him. And it really, maybe he doesn't even know, and it will unfold the way it's supposed to, and that takes away a lot of the anxiety and the stress and the arguments and the science behind it, because you're just like, well, actually there's probably something in store for you that we don't even know yet and that we can't possibly guess, so let's just watch it unfold.
Right. The person who you fall in love with and marry, the mentor who opens up parts of yourself you didn't even know were there, the discovery of a whole field that was strong at that school versus another. The future has information that we have yet to perceive, but our instinct and our relationship with God, the force of life, will guide us in the right direction. That gut instinct has information that's yet to be revealed, forthcoming. That synchronicity is pointing us where we are being guided, but yet to know what it looks like in high pixel resolution. You're such a good mom. You're such a wise spiritual mom.
Ah, I love that. Speaking of children, one of the things that Dr. Lisa, that I was just like blown away with is that when we were at this conference together, the Mind Body Green, which, I love Jason and Colleen, shout out to them. My whole journey kind of started with Mind Body Green. You mentioned something about teens. And my daughter, who's a teenager, happened to be there. And I was just blown away by the science that you share in your new book. And so I'd love for you, for people who may not know or just may have heard the headlines, like, tell us about that.
Being a teenager, adolescence is a time of spiritual growth. And I don't mean like what a nice idea or if we try, hardwired, inborn spiritual growth. We know that through long term longitudinal twin studies, that there's an innate spirituality that burgeons with adolescence. What is my meaning? What is my purpose? And I don't mean is it engineering or biology? I mean purpose as a soul
Mm,
on earth, ultimate spiritual purpose. What's the nature of life? Life itself. And again, not what meaning I decide life has, but I can actually spiritually perceive life has. That's a big, profound, nagging question with adolescence. And it's so grueling to try to figure this out that there's often a phase of developmental depression, a struggle, an existential yearning, late adolescence, early college. We call it sophomore slump, but it's much
mm,
bigger and full of opportunity. Because if the teen is encouraged to follow those questions and then receive guidance to awaken, move out of narrow achieving, what am I going to get? How am I going to make it happen? Out of achieving awareness to add in an awakened awareness. What is life showing me? Where is my North Star? What's the deepest meaning in life? What does God ask of me? What is the universe revealing to me? That type of awakening is hardwired to absolutely soar starting in adolescence. If the teen says yes, which really means if we support her or him in exploring firsthand these questions. So, as a mom, I'm a mom, I have three kids, two of them have been through developmental depression. It is excruciating. I know
sorry.
exactly what it is, but yet it is really the opportunity of their life. And they got there to open their perception and feel the deeper nature of life, feel that we're loved. Like it does, we're not going to fall through a black hole. We're not going to explode from existential horror and terror. When we open to this moment, this imperative developmental hardwired moment of spiritual awakening in adolescence, it is there the rest of our lives. So invite your child to meditate by your side, walk in nature, and listen for the guidance in the trees and the birds. Pray out loud. Whatever you do, if you, as the mom or dad, are transparent and forthcoming about your spiritual heart. When I was 19, I was really stuck. I didn't know if God existed. And then I saw light on the water one summer and I said, I don't care what I've read, Nietzsche, Kant, whatever nihilist I picked up in college, God is real. Yeah. So tell your story. Tell your story. Pray out loud. Tell your story. Be you. Now, as we all know, our kids do not want us to be them or tell them what to do.
Yes.
But if we're authentic, it says, okay, one, The spiritual reality is real because mom talks about it. Two, there is a way in because I've watched her pray and meditate and open up and do mind, body, spirit practices in nature. Three, our relationship actually goes to that depth. And then four, no matter if something's glorious or really painful and seemingly harsh and dead ended, traumatic in my life, there's a spiritual response to suffering. And that opens doors to an entirely different, much more inspired, bigger life.
When you say adolescents, like that at some point they're starting to explore this, is there like different age ranges? I know everyone's different, but what is like the age range that you're talking about that you can start doing this, or that it starts to become a bigger part of their life?
Yes. So, Dr. Amy, that is really the most important question that could be posed to parents. When do we start talking about
Yes.
spiritual life? And it's the day the baby's born.
Mm.
Mama and daddy are so grateful for you. You are a gift from God. You are brought by heaven. Whatever your words are, I know that I couldn't alone have created you. There's a great universe in you. Whatever your words are, but when we speak daily, like the golden thread through our lives, the child learns that the spiritual reality is real and their natural inborn eyes for the spiritual level. Remember, as a kid, all of your spiritual perceptions and spiritual intuitions. Wait, those are real. Lock in. Wait, there's a word, lock in. Oh, that's a synchronicity. Oh, that's the mama baby relationship of little geese or little deer. They're just like us. And then suddenly we're not teaching environmentalism, we're in relationship, mama, baby, everybody.
Wow. You gave a really great example, and I still remember. So I wanted you to share that. First of all, why is teenage depression or mental health in general worsening so much? And how can we use this to help our teens?
Yeah. So, Dr. Amy, that is perhaps the number one, not just mental health crisis of Gen Z. Well, the number one cause of death and morbidity in Gen Z is suicide, right? In my generation, there was auto accidents, and behind that was the rare cases of cancer. None of that. It is suicide. This is shocking, right? Shocking. So, how do we get here? And basically, if we look at addiction, depression, anxiety, suicide, the diseases of despair have rapidly increased over the past 25 years, very rapidly. And statistically, this tragic ascension of struggle and inner pain goes hand in hand statistically with the decline of spiritual life, religious and spiritual life in families. And again, it doesn't matter what tradition, and it doesn't matter spiritual but not religious, but some profound form of transcendent relationship, an awakened life. This is the tragedy of our time. And we got here because 40 years ago, we silenced spiritual life in the public square. It was intended at the time to be inclusive. Take down the Hanukkah menorah, take down the Christmas tree. Everybody counts. Well, indeed, everybody counts. So let's add in everyone, not silence all spiritual
Mm.
life, because 40 years of non conversant spiritual life has led to a situation now where Gen Z often doesn't even know how to pray or meditate, often doesn't have a roadmap of a transcendent reality. It is ice age. Spirituality is innate, but it's only one third innate. Living, breathing spiritual life is two-thirds cultivated by our parents, by our community, by the journey of our lives. If we take an empty bucket for that two-thirds of environmental formation and give Gen Z nothing, then it is no wonder that they're left with an atrophied spiritual core, directly statistically related to the ascension of the diseases of despair and, yes, suicide. The only good news here is that we have the antidote. Okay, we have the biggest mental health crisis in history. The rate of death by suicide is greater than any other form of death for Gen Z, and yet we have the antidote. The antidote is within us and within parents foremost, which is to bring spiritual life into our families.
Okay, so I'm listening to this and I'm saying, I have children. whatever age they are, maybe they're preteens, they're teens, they're older, I want to bring in spiritual life. I have not done it for many years. And, this is not part of our routine. This is not, we don't go to a church or synagogue or temple. What are we doing?
What do we do? How do we do it?
Yeah.
So the good news is you already are spiritual. So let's start with us as moms and fathers. What is authentic, truly authentic to you? Is it to go to your childhood house of worship, sit there, feel the music, hear the prayers, dust off the rusty prayer book or the rusty prayer in your mind? And you may not agree with everything. You might agree with 70%, but you have given your child an immersion into a foundationally spiritual community. You've given your child a roadmap onto a foundationally sacred landscape. You have opened up your children's eyes to an entire way of living and being that's driven by a relationship to God or a higher power. So you can then go home and say, I am so glad we shared that. I happen to disagree. The leader said A and B, and in our family it's kind of X and Y, but I'm so glad we shared in this transcendent community. We don't need to swallow whole everything to appreciate the deep, sacred spaces and relationships and guidance in our lives. So that's door number one, find a place. Door number two is you. You are the torchbearer in your child's life. And this is not pressure. You don't need to come up with the perfect spiritual words and the golden practice for dinner time and just the right thing to say at bed. You are spiritually on a journey. And as you practice your own journey out loud, visibly, meditate smack in the middle of the living room, pray before you eat, do whatever you do openly. Talk about your struggles. Mommy, I feel so guilty. I was so rude today to the woman at the store. I need to go back. Do you want to come with me? Because I have to apologize. And actually, now that I've apologized, will you join me? I'm going to say a prayer asking for renewal and forgiveness because that was God's child. And I want to treat everyone with love. We don't have to be perfect at all, but we do have the opportunity to open the window into our spiritual life and let our children in. And that is everything. The science is clear. The intergenerational transmission of spiritual awareness comes foremost through the mother. And that happens no matter what religion she is or isn't. Passing the torch. And passing the torch has two pieces: living unconditional love, walking the walk of our spiritual values, and then talking and breathing the walk, transparency, tell the story, show up and let them sit by you in when you're in your imperfect moments and find the spiritual resolution in the moments of anger or suffering or trauma and find the spiritual response. That is a setup for an extraordinary life in your child. Because the bottom line is not that we're perfect. The bottom line is not that we aren't going to get hit on the head with hailstorms. The bottom line is there's always a spiritual response and way forward. When we do that, we literally wire the brain so that next time we are set and ready, and our children wire their brain, strengthen, myelinate the tracks between regions of the brain, strengthen the cortex across the regions of the awakened brain so that next time the spiritual response is the go-to ready response.
That is so beautiful. I had a question, and this might be a technical question, but does sending your children to a religious school have any benefit on their spirituality practice? Or is that kind of, since it's not coming from the parent or the mom, is that not a huge contributor?
So, Dr. Amy, a very interesting study was done. A study of teenagers was done looking at where does the greatest amount of socialization, environmental shaping of the spiritual core, from where does it most come for teenagers? Is it from us as parents? Is it from their besties? Is it from their circle? Or is it from the general culture and climate of their school?
Hmm.
And whereas parents are tremendously impactful, we are not the strongest force anymore in adolescence. So, of those school based besties, circle, culture, and climate, where might most parents think their children are really being shaped? I guess they'd probably say the besties, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out that it is the general culture and climate of the school that weighs in to shape the spiritual core or let it lay atrophy or even misguide the spiritual core. Right? Why is that? The 10,000 exchanges by the locker, all that imply how we treat each other, who really then are we on earth? If you bully a kid, then you're not saying everyone's a soul on earth. If you like someone because they have the most expensive clothes or the thinnest body, then you're not saying we're all souls on earth. And the data is quite alarming. The number one predictor of popularity in boys in high school. You'd think everyone says, oh, sports. It's not. It's substance use followed by exploitation of girls, not just on the belt. Beautiful souls on earth, acculturated in a culture and climate, particularly highly resourced communities. Believe it, that's even worse in highly resourced communities. And in girls, the number one predictor, not smart, not nice, number one predictor of popularity in girls is weight. Parts and pieces, right? Followed by, and this is the most, I think, tragic, Mean Girls, like the music,
Ugh.
like the book. It's true, interpersonal aggression to instantiate rank. So this is a culture and climate, particularly in highly resourced, more affluent communities, that is not strengthening of the spiritual core. It is wounding. It is wounding and violating of the natural spiritual core. So yes, if we can find climates and places that share a more nourishing, spiritually enlivening culture. It can be a faith community on the weekend, it could be a camp during the summer, and it can be a school that holds foremost spiritual life. And that is often a religious school, whether it's a Catholic school or a yeshiva or a Sufi school, whatever it may be, or a school that is foundationally spiritual. They're schools that build their whole culture to be foundationally spiritual. So yes, you're right. We also can build this as parents. We don't need someone to build it for us. We can change our parent culture. And instead of saying, where's little Jackson applying to college? Say, I saw Jackson. He greeted me with the biggest smile. It was lit up my heart, right? Instead of, hey, how was your day? Did you guys win? How'd the math list go? I'm so happy to see you. You are the bright soul in my life. Tell me something really funny from today. Just move off of this droning, repetitive, achieving awareness. Message is already in our culture. You don't have to worry about your kid getting it. To an awakened. Tell me something. Did life show you something today that was surprising? Did you feel God's presence or some point have a moving moment? Show them how deep life is.
That's so beautiful. It's so, and you're talking to someone coming from a South Asian background that, the conversations when, for my husband and I, we're always about achievement. But when you talk about spirituality, that was a huge part of our life too, because my parents, came from a very spiritual background. And so they brought that to us. And I feel like we've kind of lost that part of, we don't regularly participate in religion. But I have picked up spirituality a lot more in the last few years. And my children, joke about it and they poo poo it, but I know that it's going in.
Oh, yes, right. Now, of course, we get the individuating response, the me and not me. What really do I think is true, Mom? Well, that requires a little push. The
Yes.
difference between me and you starts with a little push, but that doesn't mean it's not getting in. That push means that they're actually working and exploring and testing the resonance of what we say against the compass of their own heart, and that seeds are planted. Everything we do and say gets in. When we look through the lens of science, we see that the depth that teens share in their personal conversation, how spiritually engaged they get, when they're late at night over popcorn or confiding in each other, reaches the depth to which we as parents have spoken to them. So they do carry us with them. They just think they're doing it on their own.
That's
It's
that's
wonderful.
that's it's so true because I think I definitely did that when I was a kid, and I just but you really do get influenced by the way you were brought up and your parents, and what they said to you.
And they think they're being secretive very often, these very secret personal conversations that are very real and very soul searching. are potentiated. They go to the reach and depth that we have shared with them as parents in our own lives.
I just love this conversation because I have thought about it so much over the last few years, and when I heard you talk about your books and I dove into your work, I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, I need to be doing this even more," because I had just kind of started down this path, and but I did flounder a little bit in the beginning because I wasn't sure, like, am I someone who enjoys reading spiritual texts? Or am I someone who just wants to talk to the universe on a walk? Or am I someone who enjoys meditation? Or am I someone who likes to go to a house of worship? Like, I think that felt overwhelming in the beginning. So, how does someone who's just starting on this journey choose or decide? Is it like you just try all these things and decide what's right for you?
And foremost, above all else, trust your inner heart, your inner wisdom. Your inner compass is real. That is a divine guidance, your deep inner compass. So your life's a spiritual adventure. You may find that there is a place in nature where you feel very close to the source of life, and then bring your children. Your life is a spiritual adventure through which you may find a pilgrimage, and then bring your children, or tell them about it and share your journal. When your children see you take the most extraordinary adventure of a lifetime, then the whole point of being alive becomes one of sacred quest. And we are completely freed from the droning measurement and rampant sort of good enough, not good enough sense of, it's a form of suffering for kids. Doesn't matter where you get into college. You get there, and is someone better than me? Are they getting better graduate school? And there was a fellow, well known, very well known, made a lot of money in the paper for that, then back in the paper, well known for losing a lot of money. He went into his garage, ran his engine, and killed himself for not having money. He had two little boys. That's a tragedy beyond measure. All they wanted was a dad. They could have hit restart. They could have moved. They could have started all over. Two little boys. You have everything, and you took your life from them. So I think that we've really misguided kids in our center field culture by being relentlessly about achievement. Of course, we have to do our part and prepare and work hard, but achieving mind alone, what I call achieving awareness, is insufficient to find our true direction. And it's completely inadequate to fill the bucket of life. And that's why we need, yes, achieving instrumental awareness, but far more profoundly, we need awakened awareness. And we teach that as parents by speaking out loud about our relationship to God or the deeper force of life, by speaking of ourselves as being an open system. What is my higher power showing me? Do you ever wonder? We can say to our kids, I know that everyone was incredibly depressed and unhappy today at school. What does your higher power say about that and about today? I mean, is it possible today was an incredibly beautiful sunny day with infinite possibility and everyone sat around and kind of threw it away? Ask them, what does your deep inner wisdom say? When you turn to your higher power in your inner heart, what is your higher power saying? We are authorizing our kids to be spiritual knowers. It takes so little on our part because they're already built that way. But as parents, it's real if we say it's real.
So, what'd you say for teenagers and adults when you kind of tap into that awakened awareness, like you
Mm,
call it, that this is a way to not only make decisions in your life, but to be happier
mm,
in general?
yes. So there's huge amounts of data that when we do strengthen this awakened way of knowing, this receptive spiritual way of connecting to the guiding force in life, we are less depressed and less addicted and less suicidal. Why? Because we go from the constant rumination of, why didn't I get that? And if I'd just done this differently, really an illusion of huge radical control, to being less makers of our path and more discoverers of our journey. And it turns out that actually, funny enough, that when we do that, not only are we less struggling, less in pain, less addicted, but we actually have more of the upside. We have more grit, we have more optimism, we have a greater sense of connection and forgiveness. We are happier and we are open to other people in a way that is far more loving and accepting and connecting. It's a much brighter life. We are happier. The data is very clear. We are happier. And yes, parents and your child will have more outward success. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Okay, tell me about that.
Yes,
Does it also work in a way that it improves your outward success?
it does, right? But that's, from a spiritual point of view, that's not why as parents we'd say be spiritual. We'd say open your heart to the deeper brightness that is life, because that is the point of life. And still, as we follow our authentic path, as we're aligned with the force that is our path, then whether we are to be people of, deep service or people of inspiration or some form of contribution yet to be unveiled, whatever is our path, we will do more splendidly and authentically and with far greater impact because we are aligning with the force. And yes, yes. Even if you want to look through the sort of gritty lens of science and say, how is my child going to do in college when he or she leaves home? There are four predictors of outward success, quite specifically measured by college GPA, above and beyond entering high school GPA. So, how did they do? How did they improve? How did they grow? How did they succeed? Well, there are four predictors of who succeeds in college. One, get your sleep. Two, eat breakfast. And three, don't drink too much. And four, a daily spiritual practice.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What
Why?
a gift that we can give
Yes.
to these kids.
Yes. And why is that? Because the daily spiritual practice opens every college student up to the infinite, to the dialogue with their higher power. And then everything else, do I turn left or right? Do I major in chemistry or the humanities? Do I marry this guy or this one? Everything else shows its sense because we're guided and we're loved.
Just love that. I mean, I feel like if anyone is listening or watching today, this can be a real game changer because I think that we talk a lot. I talk a lot, and society talks a lot about things that we should be doing to help our physical being and even our brain. And I often bring up the mindset work, but not enough. And after talking to you, I just feel like that should be our focus so much of the time is like that is the game changer more than any other kind of hack or trick or biohack can do.
Oh, so important, Dr. Amy. Spirituality exactly is not a life hack. It is a deep orientation to the true governing force of life.
I'm so happy that you have been on. I could talk to you for hours.
I love
Um,
talking to you.
but I know that you have all these places. I mean, your bio was just insane about all the things that you do. So tell us, how can people learn more about you, how to find more about spirituality, about the book, and all of the other things you're involved with?
In the book, The Awakened Brain shares some of the science that we've been talking about. So it supports us when we go to others in our family or in our schools or institutions. Hey, no, this is not just my opinion. Spirituality is shown by science to be foundational to whole person development. Spirituality is the core of whole child development. Science backs this up. The awakened brain also has stories of how we develop totally differently when we put the spiritual foot forward. And the third piece in the awakened brain is that there are practices. Do you want to close by doing a practice?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, beautiful. So, Dr. Amy, this is a practice that was shared with me by the late Dr. Gary Weaver. I always thank the teacher. And it's a wonderful practice. I invite people to explore and then perhaps share with their children if it feels right to them in their wisdom as parents. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes, clear out your inner space, and take 5 breaths. In your inner space, I invite you to set before you a table. This is your table. And to your table, you may invite anyone living or deceased who truly has your best interest in mind. Anyone living or deceased who truly has your best interest in mind. And with them all sitting there, ask them if they love you. And now you may invite your higher self, the part of you that is so much more than anything you have or don't have, anything you may have done or not done, your true, eternal, higher self, and ask you if you love you. And now, finally, you may invite your higher power. Whatever word is yours, universe, God, whatever word, however you know your higher power, and ask if they love you. And now, with all of these people sitting here right now, what do they need to share? What do they need to tell you now? What do you need to know? When you're ready, I invite you back.
What a beautiful way to end this. This is something that I think anyone should know. Is this something that's in your book, or where can people find this?
This practice is in the awakened brain. Yes, it
Okay.
is.
And can we do this every day?
Dr. Amy, we can do this and bring questions to counsel. If something
Mm,
feels stuck or is heavy on our heart, we can present it, hand it over to counsel. Sometimes even give it a face or a persona and
yeah.
go with it to counsel. And counsel
So
has a
beautiful.
response. These are deep, real, sacred relationships that are loving, that offer guidance, and with whom we are never alone.
I just love that. This is something that I'm going to do as part of my daily practice because I have a little bit of a practice where I talk to the universe, but I'm going to add this little piece in. This has been such an amazing. I want to say it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite conversation on the podcast ever. So I want to give you a lot of because I was open to it and I think a lot of people that are listening are very open to learning about how this could change their lives in a way that they never even imagined. So I'm so excited to get this out to the world, to all of our friends who need to learn about this. And I want to thank you because I've gained a lot from just having this conversation with you.
Dr. Amy, I've loved connecting in this deep, truly sacred spiritual way.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I know you have lots of things to do, and sharing your time, your space, and your energy has been so amazing. Is there a website that people can go to?
So mainly Instagram. So dr.lisamiller, which shares certainly this beautiful discussion I'll put on Instagram, dr.lisamiller.
Can't wait. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you for listening and joining. And Dr. Lisa Miller, you were such a beautiful gem of a guest. I really, really appreciate you. Until next time, guys, this is the Save Yourself podcast.